the company that I run works entirely with silk, and silk is a biomaterial. So, like a plant protein or an animal protein, silk is also a really biocompatible protein, which means it has many human applications, that it has an innate property to help with liver function. And that's when that moment went off, not because we've all been hungover so much in our lives, of course. We make drinks that help you wake up fresh and be productive, and we do that using natural ingredients. Your parents or other people sometimes tell you should get married when you're younger and you should live with somebody before you get married.
Yeah.
Now I get that.
Wait, hold on. Which parents in India are telling their kids live in together?
3, 2, 1, yeah! Go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Live the life you have imagined.
And the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work.
Courage is not doing things in the absence of fear. Courage is doing things despite the fear.
Growth comes from consistent action.
And you're realizing, hey, I'm not the only one with these problems.
Podcast.
Why is it
Thanks for
called
making
BYOB?
It's be your own boss.
Not like we should.
It also started out with does this give us an excuse to drink during the day? And so the
Better
first couple, we actually got people to bring a drink, and we had like 8, 9 of these. And then I realized the last 5 of them, I only brought hot water, ginger, honey, lime, because I always had a throat problem. I started with gin, and then I ended with ginger, honey, lime. So now we don't use the gimmicky part of the title anymore.
So I see your dad jokes haven't changed.
No, they're not changing. They're only getting better. Okay, let's start in the most obvious place, Mitali. How's married life?
It's good. Married life is different. Living together, I understand now why your parents or other people sometimes tell you should get married when you're younger and you should live with somebody before you get married.
Yeah.
Now I get that. None of which...
Wait, hold on. Which parents in India are telling their kids live in together
you know
before
what I
getting
mean?
married?
Like everyone who knows better will say, please, like, live with your partner before you meet, before you marry them. But yeah, it's totally different. Being married in COVID was totally different as well.
That's crazy.
But I mean, it's really nice to have like a friend live with you.
Well navigated.
Yeah, thanks.
Cool. Let's get the viewers and listeners to get to know you a little bit better. So can you tell us a little bit about Forbes 30 Under 30 and founder of Morning Fresh, Mitali, please?
Started Morning Fresh when I was 24, 25. I had no idea what I was doing. The one thing that I did know is that the company that I run works entirely with silk, and silk is a biomaterial. So like a plant protein or an animal protein, silk is also a really biocompatible protein, which means it has many human applications.
Gotcha.
Simplified.
Thank you.
And one of the things that we realized when we were doing R&D on this material was that it has an innate property to help with liver function. And that's when that moment went off, not because we've all been hungover so much in our lives, of course, but it was also like, okay, I think that this is a viable option for us to maybe commercialize. And that's when I went onto the market and sort of surveyed competition, understood the landscape, focus groups, understanding customers, and we realized that it would be an opportunity for us to make this as like a hangover drink, and that's how Morning Fresh was born.
Am I getting it right that you were working at the company prior to Morning Fresh starting out in some capacity, and as you went through that process, you identified a new product category?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that journey. So once you identify that, liver function is something we can tap into, how do you go about within a bigger company figuring out that there's this space? I'm guessing you've got to not perhaps pitch to an investor, but pitch to the business leaders that this is a direction you want to go down. How did that work?
I think so. The way I operate is slightly different. I like my data, and that gives me security. So I think the first thing I did before pitch it to anyone else was to just go out and see for myself if it was going to be a viable option. So definitely did business plan after business plan on pieces of paper, nothing fancy on Excel, just to sort of like chart out what this is possibly going to look like, what kind of people we're going to probably need. And always what I was assuming and what I went out and found out were most often than not quite different. I assumed that people would understand this, but I also realized India is a very different country made up of so many different types of people and cultures and perspectives, and drinking is agnostic to all of this, right? I mean, you can be at whatever age or gender or culture, and it's something that you know and enjoy doing, or for those that do. And so yeah, I think I sort of had to just chart it out on paper, get all my data together, and then figure out, okay, fine, because if I was convinced, it was going to be
Sure.
easy for me to convince everyone else.
And so when you started out, what I'm really curious about is what is the Morning Fresh business pitch now? And what was the Morning Fresh business pitch then? And what's the biggest change? So maybe let's start with where you are right now. What's the Morning Fresh pitch at this point in
The
time?
Morning Fresh pitch now is that we make drinks that help you wake up fresh and be productive, and we do that using natural ingredients.
Okay.
And so it's become a little bit wider as a mission statement than when it started. When it started, it was just hangovers. And I think the word itself is something that my relationship with has evolved, because that's not really exactly what the product does. It's more focused on the liver and getting the alcohol out of the body and metabolizing it quickly. But hangover is something that people understand and can, get the entire context within which the product works. But I mean, for me, the most interesting part has been adapting the communication from when we started, because it was like hangover drink, anti-hangover drink, to like a detox drink, to like a functional beverage, to like expanding into nutraceuticals. And I think that's sort of how the journey's gone.
What so far? So when did Morning Fresh actually start? What year did it start? Do you have a date, by the way?
I don't have a date. It was sort of like when
Just
you're in
happened.
a relationship, it just happens. Yeah. It's like 2016.
Okay, got
Yeah,
it. So
around
it's been about
2016.
7 years. What are a couple of amazing things that have happened over the last 7 years that stick out for you as memories of, hey, cool, we achieved this amazing thing with the product or with the business?
So I always set like mini goals for myself, and they're like silly small things. And my first goal was I want to find out about somebody using Morning Fresh and it not be someone I know.
Yeah.
So it was nice. And I remember when I went to a music festival and we had our product at the festival, and someone who was at the bar was like, dude, just when you're done, like, make sure you get a Morning Fresh. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, yeah, this shit actually works. Like, you should try it.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
I was like,
Oh, you
this
were
is
told
amazing.
that. You didn't
Yeah.
even overhear it. Oh, that's
Somebody
cool.
told me because I was at the bar and I was like, I don't know if I should drink. And they were like, no, get another drink. And I was like, I don't know. They're like, why are you worried, man? It's fine. Like,
Morning
get this
Fresh
thing.
is there.
I
Yeah.
was like, okay, cool. This is exciting.
Did you immediately
I
tell
just-
that person?
I just totally didn't say anything and like freaked out on the inside and was just like, yes, okay, this has happened.
That's awesome.
So that was like first win. Definitely revenue targets, I think for me is like very validating. It's hard because it's a product, it's not a service. So it's a totally different ball game, especially in the space that's somewhat linked to alcohol.
Sure.
So I think revenue for me was definitely like I've had different benchmarks of revenue, bootstrapped. So you're always sort of like
Yeah, that's huge.
making sure that you're able to survive and just like do what you promised, both to the customer as well as my team. Another favorite story is basically stories. Like if I meet my customers, it's like a B2C business, right? So if my customer is happy, I am happy to hear their stories. So I recently went out and met some friends. And he told me, he was like, oh my God, I can't believe you run Morning Fresh. I have to tell you how I discovered your brand. And I was like, tell me. And he said he went on a date with this girl and they'd gone on a couple of dates and he had been a bit bad about responding back to her and stuff like that. And he was like, I'm really sorry, I was really hungover. I'm sorry I never got back to you. And as a response to that, she sent him like on Swiggy or Dunzo, like a bunch of Morning Fresh and some dairy milk and was like, feel better soon.
Wow.
They're
That's
sadly not together now.
Yeah, I was
but-
going to say a big
you know,
move early on.
But how cute. And I
Yeah.
was like, that's so nice. So
Oh,
those
wow.
kind of stories just make me all... It's
Nice.
nice to know like when the product becomes your own and that's how people sort of use it and then they become my advocates and take the story forward, which is nice.
I want to dig a little bit deeper into when you said you're bootstrapped. So I want to understand, has it been a conscious decision to be bootstrapped? Were there opportunities to go down the funding route? How did you think through that entire process? Which way to go? Are there plans to go funding in the future, remain bootstrapped? Just tell us about that part of the story.
I was pretty clear early on that there was going to be a large learning curve. This isn't a product category that has existed forever and ever, where the only thing we had to do was differentiate and scale.
Yeah.
There was a lot for us to figure out. So I knew that if we got funding too early, we would have had a lot more loss of control. I think would have diluted a lot of the things the way we did. And also the learning, I think the pressure would have been too high to scale rather than us being able to sort of like learn and build on that. So funding is an option now, and if we were to take it, I'm in a much better position for us to navigate from where we were in the beginning.
And let's say you go down that route. Do you have what's the purpose of now, you don't need to give me like a breakdown of numbers and stuff, but is it funding driven towards like marketing because all the systems are set up,
Always
or okay?
for marketing, because this is a product, as I mentioned, not a service, so it will be marketing heavy. Definitely also to build a team, and also because we're going to have a bunch of products that we like to build out into the wellness space. It'll be also to make sure that we're able to like build efficacious products. Like, I want to be able to give you a claim and say that it actually works and back that up.
Got it. So you'd have to do research and development in that space as well.
I think that's the most fun part. This is my realization in this whole thing. Sales is exciting. It helps me keep my ears to the ground. I know what customers are saying. Not my most favorite thing.
Sure.
Marketing also very glitzy, very fun, really exciting. But the product development part is like
That's where you
where
want to
the
be.
juice is at.
So in a typical week, how much time do you actually get to spend on the part you love the most?
I have some bad weeks
Yeah.
where I will spend not more than maybe like an hour or two. But I'll have some good weeks where I maybe will spend actually not more than half a day.
Okay. And so the rest of the time is marketing, sales, marketing, sales. Hit
Marketing,
those revenue
sales,
numbers.
people, HR, scaling, business development,
Email etiquette
collaborations,
workshops.
Email etiquette workshops.
And now that we know about the good stuff that's happening, can you tell us about some of the bad stuff that might have happened along the way, whether it was at the start of the journey, during, or now-ish? What have been some, not so great moments for you as you've been scaling the brand?
All the not so great moments for me, I think I thought there were mistakes in the past, but like retrospectively, I'm like, okay, I guess this is what experience is. But because we were bootstrapped, I think every decision has had like a financial implication.
Right.
There have been many decisions, especially earlier on, that I think that I made, and I knew once I made them that, shit, I don't think that this was the right call. And it always feels so heavy because it's like, oh my God, I should have, I could have, I
Yeah.
would have, can I have, like... And so those always I carry a little bit heavier than the others, because the rest I feel like is solvable. Like, we will talk it out, we will like figure out differences, you can solve for it, you can do another iteration, that's fine. But the financial ones, it's just like, once it's gone, you just gotta be better, smarter next time.
So I'm not going to let you get away with the conceptual stuff. So I want to know give me a financial fuck up you made that had a financial implication and how you dealt with it.
I can tell you two.
Great.
One was, I think, just from a manufacturing point of view. So we manufacture to market all the way. So we don't outsource
Gotcha.
any of that stuff. And I didn't know anything about machines back then. I sort of was just getting into it. And so I went to a vendor, not very well researched, and he convinced me that this was the best way to do some part of the processing of the product. And I was like, okay, I mean, I guess this seems okay. I did the best that I thought I could back then. And the moment he handed over the product, it already had so many issues in terms of like how it was working, just the workflow of people being able to like fill it, pack it, do all of those
Right.
things. And I was like, oh my God, I think, and once the vendor's done, he's done, like, and
Yeah.
then he's out. And I had no idea how to even, like, how do you handle stuff like that? Like, how do I know who's a good vendor? India has 150 million people who can do the same thing.
Yeah.
And also, what material should it use? They said they were using stainless steel. They used MS instead of SS, so it, like, doesn't last as long. And I was like, okay, fine. I assumed and justified that it was going to be something that I'd be able to use for a couple of years at least.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, I guess very quickly I was like, I don't think that this is something that we're going to be able to scale with.
And so what do you do when you make and I want to understand, apart from the business move you made, how do you deal with it personally, where maybe that's one of your first few fuck-ups, right? And it happens. Did you carry it with you to home? How do you deal with that type of stuff?
I mean, yeah, you do, because I'm just like, oh my God, like, I feel like I should have thought this through better. How could I let this happen? I think having supportive people around you. So, I mean, in my case, I'm lucky that both sets of my parents, my in-laws and my parents and my husband are both extremely supportive. So when I do sort of beat myself up over it, they're just like, you're never going to know unless you've done it once. So now
Sure.
you know. And I think just having someone there to reassure you is like, okay, fine, it's not like the worst thing. It's sort
Yeah.
of like when you're in the 10th grade and you like flunk one exam or almost like fail
Yeah.
one, you're just like, oh my God, my life is over.
Yeah.
It's not so bad.
EVS, by the way. I mean, out of all
Not
subjects,
Hindi?
no.
No?
I figured out Hindi. EVS was the one subject. It
No,
was
that's
a
because you take it
disaster.
for granted. You're just like, yeah, I got
I
this.
just wrote deforestation for every answer, but it didn't quite work. Sorry, let's get to financial fuck up number 2, because now you promised to. So now you have to deliver the second one.
Financial fuck up number 2, I think, was influencer marketing, which
Okay.
is still quite an interesting area.
Yeah.
But again, sort of you get
Is that more recent, or again one of the older ones?
in the past. So now I'm much more sort of clear, and I can say no. I think before, when you're just starting out, it's just like FOMO. You want to be everywhere as much as possible because that was the agenda. I think I signed up to do an influencer campaign. Everyone has their 2-bit to add to it, and was like, this is how it should be, this is what has to happen, these are the kind of people you should work with. And again, you're just like, it sounds like a good idea on paper, it sounds great, there's no real way to validate it unless you figured it out for yourself. And again, I was like, I'm just going to be tracking the data to see if this is something that does make sense. That's what, I don't know, I guess in retrospect, it's like you have to figure this out.
Yeah.
Like you have to do trial
It
and
doesn't
error
sound
and
like a
all.
mistake. It sounds like an experiment that didn't pay off,
Yeah.
or a bet that didn't pay
Yeah.
off, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess that's a healthier way to look at
Yeah,
it. I'm
that's
glad
a
we came to
healthier way to
that. Okay. That's good. And right now, what's the hardest business challenge you are tackling?
Mine is primarily marketing. I think it's just education. Again, the category of products have not existed forever and ever. It's a little bit more new age than what you're used to.
Yeah.
People have been getting hangovers for centuries.
Yeah.
And so for people to wrap their heads around the fact that there is a solution like this, for them to move past skeptical, like, sort of thoughts of, does it really work? Like, is this something that I can actually try? Will it work for me? So just education, building that credibility, building that relationship with customers, that is both exciting because there's a lot for us to solve for, but also can be a challenge.
And what are you trying right now to build that relationship with customers? So what's the latest marketing thing or whatever it is you're doing to try and build that relationship?
I think just having different types of conversations. So language and communication is something that we're playing with a lot more. Before it was just very literal, like, this is what we are.
Sure.
And stage 1 was just like making it available. Because when I have a conversation, someone's like, okay, what is it? Like, where can I get it?
Yeah.
And now that base is covered, it's just asking people what kind of conversation they want to have. And I think having a deeper understanding of like who the customer is
Sure.
and where they hang out and how they like to be talked to. Again, India's totally different. So a Delhi customer is totally different from a Bangalore customer.
Yeah,
It's very
damn
different
right,
from
yeah.
Hyderabad and Goa.
Yep.
So it's not as simple as like, let's figure it out and scale. You have to spend a little bit more time to like culturally contextualize so that you can have that relationship. It's
Got
like
it.
meeting a friend, and like when you instantly connect, it's different from, you know, when you're from
Yeah.
a different culture, and you have to make a little bit more effort.
Got it.
Yeah.
You were saying that the hardest problem right now is educating the customer and making them aware of it. For people who are already educated and aware of this product, there are also other products in your category,
Yeah.
right? So they might be different in terms of format. So is that the harder problem, or is educating the harder problem, or have you chosen to solve one more than the other, or how do you wrap your head around that stuff?
Meaning, like, how do we like segregate our customers?
With the competition that you have
Yeah.
in your space, and the other piece of other competition is people just not being aware of it, right, and
Yeah.
educating. So are you focusing very consciously just on the educational awareness piece and not actively trying to talk about and message in terms of differentiate it from your competition? Is that a conscious decision?
I think that in educating our customer in itself, it helps both the category as well as the customer differentiate, because it's sort of like, if you hear from us first, that I hope that you will stay with us. But I think the other piece which you're talking about is retention. That's a lot more fun. We do focus on it, but obviously the chunks are much larger because the opportunity for new customers is far, far, far larger than the
Retaining
number of
those, yeah.
customers that we can have. Yeah.
Gotcha. When we were discussing the stuff together, you just started getting into weddings as a way to sort of grow the brand. So what are your major sources of sales right now? Does weddings play, I'm just, very selfishly curious. Does that play a significant portion of it, or is it just a nice little
Seasonally.
booster?
Yeah, it's a seasonal booster. It's not something that happens all year round. Events, though, are.
Gotcha. So
but
music festivals and stuff?
Again, brand awareness and sales are something that I see totally differently. So I would do music festivals or marketing campaigns or influencer sort of outreaches more as a brand awareness and building kind of a program, and sales primarily for us come from quick commerce or like a Swiggy or a Dunzo, because it's also something that you can get quickly. So if you're out on a Friday night, or if you're ordering your munchies, or if you're like having people over, it's something that people are intuitively doing anyway, so you can make it available and order it whenever you want. Otherwise, your Amazon, Flipkart, Big Basket, and liquor stores. Our goal is to sort of be like the chewing gum of the liquor store.
So you take it along with a bottle of gin or whatever?
Yeah. So you'll come in there to shop anyway, and you see the ones that you like, and then you can add it to your bag, because you know the kind of night you're probably going to have, or the weekend.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
How involved are you in each of these different bits? So retail versus Flipkart, Amazon versus Swiggy versus the brand activations. There's so much going on. And obviously your job is to ensure that each of these outcomes are met, but you might not be able to get into each of them very deeply. So are you more involved in some things than other things, or do you take a backseat across all, or are you hands-on across all?
So the sale part, the execution part, the operational part, I've fully stepped away from now, which feels
you
amazing.
can smile fully.
Yeah. Feels
That's
so
cool.
good.
Yeah.
I think just the branding, the differentiation, the messaging that we're going to tell customers, where we should be, sort of strategic partnerships, that's something that I focus on. I do love retail for the reason that it gives me insights unlike any other. Also, the data comes directly to us if it's our website or retail versus if we're using a third-party platform.
Gotcha.
So you can get general trends, but the way I stay involved is through the information, not necessarily through the day-to-day decisions.
Got it.
Yeah.
Have you always been big on data? Because this is something that a lot of entrepreneurs within our community, I feel like sometimes I'm fighting a battle to get them to think in terms of data. Like tomorrow, the session we have is business reflection, and I'm literally running the whole thing on a Google Sheet to force them to think about numbers. So has that always come naturally to you, or have you had to consciously bring that into your armory?
I think it was just like a survival mechanism. It's like, how do you handle so much diversity, but like finally you need it all on a dashboard, because like I can't be in 10 places at one time. So it was sort of just like an organizational tool for me to just be able to manage and then just make better decisions, because sometimes it isn't a feeling decision. Sometimes it's like what's better for the business decision, and the only way I could do that was if I had everything in one place.
Got it. I know we just talked about you being happy that sales execution is, you're not fully involved in.
Yeah.
I also want to go back to maybe the beginning parts of your journey. What was the first thing you had to let go of, where you were hands-on, that you had to let go of, or that you did let go of to give yourself time to be a bit more strategic with what you were doing? Because I know a lot of people listening in are perhaps at the start of the journey that you've been on over the last 4 or 5 years, maybe the initial phases where they're doing sort of everything. So how did you first decide to let go of something and actually make that happen, instead of, I should be more strategic, and then still get involved in everything?
I don't know. That's a tough question. Because there's a lot of things that you have to let go of.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that you have to also structure in a way that you can let go of. I think that was the first thing that I realized. When there is another that isn't you, it's like it's my chaos, but it's organized for me, versus like I have to organize in a way that other people can also add to and take from. So I think for me, like that differentiation was like, Mitali is not her business. Like her business is a separate entity, and like if you want it to be bigger than you, then you have to have that difference.
When did that realization come that the business is not you? Was it there from the start, or did it happen over time?
It's absolutely not there from the start. I mean, you do it because like this is what you want to do and you're connected. So if like it's a shit product, I'm a shit Mitali, which was like, oh God, okay, fine.
Yeah.
But I think COVID was like an extreme situation. So it was like, are we doing this or are we not doing this? And then if we're not doing this, you have to see it differently and have its own consequences. If we are going to do this, again, it's going to mean a lot of different things and commitments from your side. And that means letting go of some parts and trusting others to sort of like come in and do their thing. I think control for every entrepreneur is a huge thing. So it's like it has to be done perfectly, or your idea of perfect. So I think letting go of that is more important than, otherwise help comes. Honestly, I feel like I always felt isolated and alone. But the moment you let go of that idea that it has to be done a certain way, or like in your perfect way, help is easily available, and people will do it, and they'll mess up. And I guess you just plan for the mess up, and it's okay.
It sounds like over time, you created space for other people to come in and help, when earlier, and I feel like a lot of people, I can definitely relate to this, right? Whether it's, I might feel like with Jigsaw as well, I've been able to take a step back from a lot of things and things are going great, but there'll
Yeah.
always be this one little project or something where I go back into, great, I get to take control of absolutely everything. And when you create space and say, okay, it's not just me, I don't have to do it, what are the other perspectives? Then help comes. And then there are perspective, ideas, connections, people helping
Yeah.
you move quicker,
It just
resources.
happens.
Yeah. Which makes me think, again, it's all on you, right? Because you've got to create the space to make it happen, which
I
is more
remember
pressure.
someone telling me the same thing, that if somebody in your team didn't understand what they needed to do, it's not on them, it's on you.
Yeah.
So you need to explain it in a way that makes sense to people, because ultimately, like, we have to get that job done. So like I get that now. You can't just sort of like say whatever, whenever, however that works for you. You have to sort of build this as a thing that people want to be part of.
Do you feel, just getting it from this conversation, that
Yeah.
even something like this of creating space for others to help is your responsibility?
Yeah.
Do you ever feel, or do you always feel, I guess it's somewhere in the middle maybe,
Yeah.
the pressure of everything is on you? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Or is it like a love-hate thing?
It's like a love-hate thing. It's
When do you
like-
love it and when do you hate it?
I mean, you love it when things are working, you hate it when things are not. That's all.
Okay.
You love it when, like, you can see people who take ownership, you can see people who are adding value to it. And it's nice because, like, you are also finite, right? Like, if you ask me for an idea, I can give you my 2 ideas. But also, I'm so close to it that sometimes I need a third person to come in and they'll bring an idea that might actually work. And if I don't do that, you're never going to be open to those kind of things. And when it doesn't work is when, you know, we're working with other people or we've made commitments and our team, or I mean, I will represent my team, hasn't been able to deliver or has like fucked up on something, and then you got to take the heat for that as well.
Yeah. Great, no? This whole thing we've
Yeah.
chosen.
Great.
So since you were talking about a third perspective, I would like to give you my perspective,
Okay.
but I don't know on what yet.
Okay.
So is there a question you have or something that you're thinking about that an alternative perspective would help? And then I shall try and provide one.
Like a business one?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I don't know how to like help you
Yeah,
with married life at home.
I'm trying to see if I can make it really hard for you so I can just be like, let's see what you
I'll
have to
just
say about
politician it.
this.
If it's a
No,
really
no,
hard
no.
one,
You
I'll be
told
like,
me no
I
vague
feel
concepts.
like
You have to give
I
me
feel like we have to
actual.
think about this.
No.
That's where I'm
not
gonna
gonna
go.
let you get away with these. What advice would you give to entrepreneurs, so that they're less hard on themselves?
That's a tough one.
No, it's such an easy one. You hang out with
Let's
entrepreneurs
think about
all
this
the
for a while.
time.
Okay, I will tell you from my personal experience what's worked for me. I don't think what works for me might work for everyone. But I think all of us have to have a little practice or a little ritual that we can go to when bad stuff
amazing.
happens. Okay, here's the
Sounds
real
so
stuff, okay?
easy.
My trick is very silly. I play the fast forward game.
Okay.
Okay, so what I do is anytime something goes really, really bad, and I do this consistently because stuff keeps going bad, I play the fast forward game, which is I fast forward 10 years,
Yeah.
and I fast forward myself to in 10 years, I'm hanging out with 3 or 4 of my closest friends who
Or
where
not
we
like
just
Snoop Dogg or
no,
like
no,
someone cool.
no,
Okay. Okay.
just people I know who we've always just
Hung out and had
hung
a
out,
good
had a good time, joked about each other, self-deprecated.
Yeah. The good
just-
friends.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right? And so I fast forward 10 years and I'm sitting with them and hanging out and I challenge myself to how am I going to make a joke out of what's just happened? Like what will the conversation be like in 10 years'
So
time?
laugh about it. Don't
Yeah.
take it that heavy.
And in 10 years' time, I always end up going, it's really not that big a deal. We
Yeah.
hardly are going to remember this huge thing.
But you know,
Worst
fast
case, it's going to be a
forwarding
story.
is also another word for overthinking, one might say. Because, like, if you're going to, like, that also can go to, like, worst case scenario. It's
yeah.
like, oh my God.
Exactly. It
Yeah.
definitely can, which is why I don't think it works for everyone.
You don't
I know me.
overthink?
I
Some
think
do
for me,
overthink?
fast forwarding helps me get out of where I am.
Okay.
So I do overthink in the present. But if I'm able to pull myself out of that and
And
say,
just
okay,
like-
what's happening in 10 years' time, then it's always we're going to laugh about it. That's what's going to happen. So
Yeah, that's nice.
if we're going to laugh about it, then we might as well laugh about it now. That's what really helps me. But again, people need different practices. So I would not advise this to everyone.
And how did you come up with the name Jigsaw Thinking?
How did I come up with jigsaw thinking? a couple of the friends that I told you I would imagine myself with in fast forward land, we were having drinks. And at the time, the business used to be called I for India when it was a social enterprise.
I for India.
Yeah, I for India, which didn't really work for when we transitioned to being a business that made money, basically. And so we knew we had to come up with a new name. And all the conversations kept leading to, I feel like building a business is like putting a puzzle together.
Yeah.
But it feels more 3D than a puzzle, which is flat
Yeah,
because
like
there
the
are other.
rebranding.
And the thinking part was people kept saying, so what do people come to you for? And I kept saying that I think a little bit differently. And so eventually, after a few drinks, someone just went, bro, a puzzle is a jigsaw and you think Jigsaw Think? And then I just searched for
Is that one of your good
URLs.
friends?
Yeah.
Who are hanging
Yeah,
out?
yeah. And so then I just checked all the URLs available with that combo, and Jigsaw Thinking was the one available. So, yeah.
I see drinks have a lot to do with your decision making.
Yeah, I'm realizing that now in this conversation. Now that you've asked me a few questions, we're going to play Jaldi with Jigsaw, which is rapid fire time. So now I get to ask you questions.
Shoot.
What's the most adventurous thing on your bucket list that has nothing to do with work?
Skydiving completed, went to Israel, amazing on bucket list.
Nice.
Before.
Wait, was the
what's happening?
skydiving there?
No,
No,
skydiving
okay.
was separate. But I literally thought I was gonna die, and it was amazing. It was like
Yeah.
very literally.
But when did you think you were going to
experience.
die? Like when you were jumping off or as you were plummeting towards the
It
earth?
all happened so fast, but I definitely was sitting there watching people jump off, and I was like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna die. This
Yeah.
is it. This is it. Or I'm gonna pee my pants and land and be the only person who has like a 5-year-old like accident. Those
I
two
remember that
things.
as well. Skydiving is, it's
But it's
life-changing.
amazing.
Yeah.
It is amazing. I don't know if I'm gonna be that person who'll do it again and again.
I'm 100%
You're
going
gonna do it again and again.
Yeah,
you
that's
need,
another
like, 3
way.
people attached to you to jump. Like there's no
No,
way.
just one.
That's it.
The guy told me before we jumped out, he was like, don't worry, I've done 12 jumps today
Yeah.
and 10 of them went really well. And I was like, what? And then we jumped.
I think they just do that to mess
Yeah,
with you.
I know,
so-
of course they were. Yeah.
Okay. And other thing on the bucket list, I don't know. I think I'd like to invest in an alcohol brand. I think I'd like
Ooh,
to.
that's cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Nice. Do you know which, not which brand, but
Not
which spirit
brand.
you don't care? Something
I think
in
I'll be
alcohol?
spirit agnostic because I do have my personal preferences, as
Yeah.
gin, but I also know like market has its own sort of behavior. So yeah, just
Isn't rum the
be
next
there.
big thing?
I
don't
think
know.
rum, tequila,
Yeah.
will be.
Everybody's having tequila and soda all of a sudden. I'm very
It's
confusing.
clean.
Yeah.
They say I can't do it, but yeah.
I hate it. Okay, next one. What's the most bizarre or unexpected business idea you've heard of?
I think somebody once mentioned that they should figure out how to have an air detection in aeroplanes for bad air when people fart so that they could clean it out and like the AQI level, but like on a plane.
Oh my god. Okay, that definitely goes in the bizarre category.
Yeah.
Cool.
Which, if you think about it, I was like, ew, don't tell me that. I don't want to know.
Yeah. What's your guilty pleasure movie, TV show?
The Kardashians.
Okay. Okay, worky question.
Yeah.
When you're feeling overwhelmed at work, what's your go-to like hack to try and calm yourself down a little
Get in the
bit?
pool, swim.
Okay. If you had to survive a zombie apocalypse with only the items in your office or your
Yeah.
workspace,
Yeah.
how long do you think you'd survive and which product would be the most useful?
Oh my god, a zombie apocalypse?
Yeah.
They freak me out. I do not get or understand zombies. I would probably keep my dog, who we have and adopted in the office, because
Nice.
I'm like, set some like force field of protection. I would probably keep some food so I could like scatter it around and hope that they can like go.
Oh,
eat
right.
some
Oh,
of
I
that.
thought that was for you too. Okay,
Oh, and
that
for me
makes
to eat,
sense.
yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I
okay.
guess. And like, I don't know. What else would I keep?
No,
in
I
my
think your
office?
dog wins, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any fictional character you'd like to swap lives with?
I recently watched a Hindi show.
Yeah. Which one?
It's Saas Bahu or Flamingo.
What?
Yeah, it sounds really weird because it's like an unlike name, but it's actually a drug cartel show where like the mother-in-law and her 2 daughter-in-laws run this like major like underground
Where are
drug
you
scene
watching this?
on Amazon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I've never heard of
algorithms
that.
are very different. But
Okay.
Like, so, and she's pretty cool because she's very unassuming on the outside. She looks like a very traditional woman, and she's a badass. but actually she like runs this entire network of like illicit substances and uses her daughter-in-laws, who again on the outside look like they're from this very, like different community outside of urban India.
Yeah.
And everyone underestimates them, but they're pretty badass.
Wow, cool. Okay.
Unassuming on the outside, badass actually.
If you could give your past self one piece of advice, it would be...
Chill out.
Yeah. If you could instantly become an expert in something, it would be...
Mind reading.
What's the weirdest combination of two foods that you absolutely love together?
That I love together.
Yeah. You know how people say it like dosa and ketchup? Like, I hate it. I can't understand it. Like, stuff like that.
I can put nimbu on anything.
Okay.
Actually, when I eat jalebi sometimes, I put nimbu on it because it cuts the sweet, and my dad told me about it, and I thought he was a weirdo, and he was like, just try it.
Yeah.
And now that's my thing.
Jalebi with nimbu.
Try it next time.
I will. I've recently started buying Lay's and putting nimbu on the chips.
But like now they've messed up the Lay's flavors. There's
What do you
only
mean?
one. You know the whole magic masala scandal?
No, what is that?
They've changed the formulation of magic masala so it doesn't taste like how it used to before.
Why would they do that though? It
I
makes
don't
no
know why
sense.
they would do that. Nobody knows. This is going to be exactly how Maggie did their
Yeah,
whole
exactly.
thing. This
Yeah.
is what's happening with Lay's.
So it'll come back.
I don't know.
It has
But
to.
like just don't bother eating magic masala anymore. Buy
Oh,
the
that's
orange
terrifying.
ones. No,
Yeah,
that's
the
okay.
orange ones are damn good.
Yeah.
Also, the lime and chili.
Very synthetic but tasty.
Final question. Define a jigsaw thinker in 3 words.
Ballsy, risk-taking and ballsy are the same. Describe a jigsaw thinker in 3 words. Like ballsy,
You can take only one word if you want to stick with one.
no, let me do 3 words. Okay, a jigsaw thinker is someone who is
Ballsy.
ballsy.
Yeah.
Someone who can, because ballsy is like a feeling. That's
Yeah,
the thing.
okay,
It,
no,
like,
let's
gives you
keep
all of
going.
it.
Let's
Yeah,
not-
I feel
yeah.
like ballsy is it.
Got it.
Yeah.
So that's what my next marketing campaign needs
Yeah.
to be.
BYOB ballsy.
Oh, God. Since we're talking about Jigsaw, I know you're part of the community for a while. I know, yeah, obviously, you were part of the community for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And also thank you for running that session for the community a couple of months back. That was
How'd it
pretty
go?
cool.
What did everyone say?
They weren't that impressed, to be honest.
Oh.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
It was very, very useful. They got a lot of insight, so thank you.
Okay.
What's one takeaway that you still sort of, like, what's one thing you took away with you that you still perhaps use?
I think learning from other industries. I always enjoyed that because in the room there were so many people from different backgrounds, even though they weren't maybe starting businesses in that background, but they came from different industries. It's always nice to get perspective from a different sort of mind space.
And what's next for Morning Fresh in 2024?
Oh God, I have mind maps.
Yeah.
I think that's also Jigsaw. We did a lot of mind maps as well.
Oh,
That
yeah,
was
we
nice.
did. We did a lot of mind maps.
Yeah.
I love mind maps.
I love mind maps.
They're the
too,
best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just helps.
Oh, we'll
me
bring them
as-
back. We've not done them
I
for a
think so.
while.
And also paper is nice because then you can like
Yeah.
scratch and rewrite, and it's not like so formal when you're typing.
Yeah, yeah.
So like
Okay, that makes sense.
I think just building out a whole line of products that is going to still resonate with our mission of helping you wake up fresh. So yeah, that's
Gotcha.
the exciting part. I get to work on new products.
Yep.
We just launched something for sleep, which is amazing.
Nice.
And has again taught me something
Is
completely
this,
different.
sorry, are these the ones for sleep? Are these the ones you sent a couple of samples over?
Oh my God, did I only send samples? Now it's like out and about.
No, now we can get them.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think these are the ones that
think
you
so.
sent.
I
Oh,
think so.
wow, that's cool.
Because I think also COVID was hard for a lot of people, work from home and just generally like change in routine.
Yeah. And sleep is hard.
And sleep is surprisingly hard. Nobody
Yeah.
tells you this about becoming an adult all of a sudden, like we were saying, like just you have no control over your time and your schedule, and before you know it, like months have finished, it's already December, like
Yeah.
I don't
Oh,
know
jeez,
when
yeah.
the time's gone. And literally the only thing that can help you be like a human being is if you sleep well.
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything else. But if I can sleep well, I can manage to do everything else
Yeah.
that I planned. So
Sleep as the real superpower.
Yeah,
Got
that
it.
is.
Where can people follow the Morning Fresh and your journey?
Instagram is where it's at.
Is it just at Morning Fresh?
Yeah, it's just at Morning Fresh, but it's got an IND at the end for India, so it's Morning Fresh IND. But
Okay.
I hope that you just type in Morning Fresh and it'll come up.
Well, thank you, Mitali.
And,
We will now continue to just chat.
okay.
Bye.
So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. We're Jigsaw Thinking, home of the self-starters. If you're interested in being your own boss, head to jigsawthinking.com or drop us a DM at Jigsaw Thinking on Instagram.